Hi friends, welcome back to another game review. I'm going to be going over, now typically you may know that I try to do each game in its own video, but for this one it doesn't make a lot of sense to, so I'll be talking about Left 4 Dead. That includes 1 and 2. The reason why I combine these two is because 2 has everything 1 had, and whatever it had improved onto it, it has. That's the reason why I wanted to talk about this game. Was I was just thinking about zombies games because I just did the Project Zomboid one, and I was thinking about other games I wanted to just do a quick little reviews on, and I think Left 4 Dead 2 is one of them. The reason I say that is because it's going to be one of the probably a few games that I would arguably give a 10 out of 10 to. I'll start with a bit of Left 4 Dead 1, and then I'll talk more about Left 4 Dead 2 because it's the more primary thing you would experience at this time. So, Left 4 Dead 1, I'll give you the things for both here real quick. Hold on. Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, I should say. I'll give you both of them right now. Left 4 Dead, yes. Give me a Wikipedia article. So, oh my god, really that fast? There's no way. What? That's incredible, Valve. So, Left 4 Dead 1 came out on November 17th of 2008. They were both released by Valve and Turtle Rock, which made interesting. Yes, Turtle Rock and Valve. I think Turtle Rock made it first. Valve picked it up as its publisher, and then Valve kind of has its hand in it as well. Left 4 Dead 2 then proceeded to come out legitimately 1 year later. That is impressive. Now, granted, Left 4 Dead 2, its main thing was the fact that it has like a new set of survivors you play as, and then the new maps that come along with it. It really is in like a weird way just like a DLC almost of the first one, because it doesn't vastly change anything from the first one other than who you play as and like the maps and everything, which is typically a DLC thing, but I don't hold it against them. Left 4 Dead 2 is phenomenal. Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 are both kind of horde based zombie shooters that are like get to the next place is the kind of game type. There's a lot of games that have come out since Left 4 Dead that are similar in action. But Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 were kind of the very big first ones, like the that generated such a buzz around the whole horde shooter genre like that. Uh, the first game sets you off as Bill, Zoe, Francis, and Lewis. Um, Arguably, I think because of how successful Left 4 Dead is, those four characters happen to be some of the most iconic characters to, I think, exist in video games. I would argue Francis and Lewis a little less. Zoe's like right below, and Bill I think is like number one. Everyone can think of Bill, the old veteran man who smokes cigarettes. He's angry. Um, Zoe being like a college student that's around that time. Francis being his big gruff biker who apparently hates everything and is also scared witless of everything. He's pretty fun to play with, I think, too. And then Lewis being a office worker. He's actually not an office worker. I read up on his stuff, but he kind of just has that attire to him in the office kind of worker attire. You go through 5 different acts. Now, the interesting thing about Left 4 Dead's is that they designed these acts to be almost like you're playing through a B-rated horror film. So anytime you load into one of the acts, it shows you like a poster of the movie that you're kind of playing through. There's some question I think in the community whether or not that is it real, or are they actual zombie apocalypse happening in world, or is they just movies that are being produced? I think it's a real apocalypse. I think they just like the aesthetic of the movie idea, and it works perfectly because most of these stories don't really have like crazy like over the top things going on. It's get to next place, get to next place, get to the final act, survive through that final act, and then you escape. It's got a few modes in it. Mainly you'll likely always see the campaign. You can play with bots or with friends. Bots are pretty competent in this game. I wouldn't say they're like the best in the world, but I would say they didn't do too bad. They typically did pretty well. Um, but with friends is by far the optimal experience with this game. Um, they have a few other mechanics throughout the game that are pretty interesting that I would like to talk about as I remember them. That way I don't forget later. They have a few systems in place to help make the experience not feel so draggy or predictable. So they have this really interesting pre-generated zombie spawn location system in place. Where if it's like a place you can't see, like you can't physically see like the back of a wall, they could come out of that door at any time. Like if like certain parameters are set, they'll spawn every so often, and there'll be a whole horde that comes after you. The other thing is that this game does have special infected as well. Special infected being in the first game, there was only 5, I think. So the first game had the smoker, the boomer, the hunter, witch, and tank, and I think that's all that was introduced in Left 4 Dead 1. Quick rundown of them: hunters are really fast, they leap really high, jump on you, and pin you to the ground, and you cannot move without a teammate hitting them off, shooting them off, or they will outright just kill you if those things don't happen. Um, there's a couple types of special infected. There's restrainer, pretty much pinners, and then supports, uh, and that's the main one. And then there's damage types that don't do either. Um, they do either, but we'll go into it a little bit when I get to them. Smokers, they have extremely long tongues. They can wrap around you and pull you up onto a wall. You cannot get off that wall until um, either someone gets the tongue or gets the smoker themselves. The boomer is a support one. He has bile that can be either thrown up on you, or if you explode them too close to yourself, they will hit the bile with you as well there, and that will draw in a horde every time it happens. So they're best to be taken out from a distance. That way you don't get any bile on you at all. The witch is arguably probably the most iconic one. People think about the witch a lot in that one. Um, and pretty much what they are, they're pretty much hazards in the environment. They sit or roam a little bit. If you get way too close or look at them for too long from a distance, they will activate, and whoever activates them, so whoever got too close to them first or looked at them first too long, they'll go after that target, put them on the ground, start chopping at them for a while, and then kill them. And they're quite tanky. But if you do it right, you can actually kill them pretty quick if you know the strats of it. Lastly, your tank is your like really big boss zombie. Big old arms. They run like gorillas. They pretty much they're all they are. They're a tank. They do high damage, high health. They cannot die quickly. You will have to take them out for quite some time. They're pretty much there to be like roadblocks. You can't avoid them. You can like run around them. They're a little slower than you. Um, but they're still pretty quick, so you can't quite like zigzag necessarily, but you can't just go around them if you're able to get past any kind of the other regular infected or special infected that are past them. Those are the 5 in the first one. I'll give you a quick rundown of the second one added on to that, which is you have a charger, another immobilizer. They grab you with one big arm, start slamming you into the ground. You can get very unlucky with chargers, and they will just toss you. They will charge you into like a water, and you will like any kind of water area, and you will just die like outright like that. Um, Jockeys, they're not quite an immobilizer. They'll move you around, and actually they're quite smart because they'll often move you either towards another special infected or hazards on the area, such as acid or anything like that. Speaking of acid, we do have spitters. Pretty much they are another kind of support infected. They aren't quite they do some damage, but it's more an ascending kind of damage that they'll get you with a spitter pool. They spit acid, it gets into a pool, you stand in it, it will escalate over time if you keep standing in it. Jockeys will, of course, like I said, move you towards those pools, which is how they kind of work together. Um, then there is, was it just those 3? It might have been just those 3. Let me think. I think that's it. Yeah, I think it was literally just those three. I'm very sorry to any of the special infected if I forgot you, but I don't think I played a lot of it. I played a lot of it, so I don't think I did. Um, Back to mainly the first game, the acts. There's only five, I think 5 or 6 acts in the game. Get through them pretty quickly. I want to say they're probably about 25 minutes, like per act. But their replay value is incredible because of that whole random spawn thing, and it's just fun to play with friends. The other game mode that I wanted to speak about is uh, versus mode. That's the other really big one. It's mainly campaign with your friends, and it's just against regular zombies. Or there's versus, which is you and your friends, or you and bots, or whatever, against a set of 4 people playing as special infected that keep respawning and try to just their job is to stop you from going through the game. That mode itself, I think, has held on, has allowed Left 4 Dead to hold on for so long. Is that mode a lot? Um, it does wonders. People love that mode. And I definitely understand why, but it's pretty much the same thing as the regular mode, but instead you do have a players and a score system in place where if all 4 survivors get through it, they get a lot of points like that. And then if all 4 special infected get you to stop, then they get points for that. Each level through the acts have escalating point values, which allows for kind of a comeback system where if you really kind of suffer the first couple rounds and you can do really well the last couple, you'll still win instead of it just being like a tie thing. Um, that's the main that's one of the big things that have allowed Left 4 Dead to hold on to. But I think the really important thing, and I spoke about this in Project Zomboid, is mods. Because it's Valve that produced these games, with the help of Turtle Rock developing them, uh, they have access to the Valve workshop, and that is arguably one of the most extensive modded games I think on the Valve workshop is Left 4 Dead. It's what kept it alive so long. People have added maps, guns, probably a couple special infected. It's really hard to add special infected. Um, but a whole host of items, a whole host of new things. And I think that's the primary thing that always keeps games from dying is just that. Not to mention Valve just allowing servers to still function relatively on these games has allowed it to keep its grasp on the community so tightly, and I think it may never let it go. Uh, Left 4 Dead 2, I will speak about a little bit more here. Left 4 Dude 2, Left 4 Dude 2. He's a Left 4 Dude. He's left out. My God. Left 4 Dead 2 introduces 4 new survivors to the mix. You have Rochelle, Coach, Ellis, and Nick. Those are the 4. Uh, I feel for Rochelle. Unfortunately, she kind of I feel like is the least liked of the 4. She just doesn't have that much like interesting things to them, comparative to the other 3. I would arguably put Nick next after that. Nick's kind of just a con man. He really doesn't like the rest of the people in the game. He's just there because he knows, I might survive a little bit easier with a couple other people. Ellis, he's not very bright. I give it to him, but he's a mechanic. He does have his moments throughout the acts that you play where he's a little smart because he knows about cars a lot, and he's just there, not really quite grasping a lot of it, and he's just having fun, I guess. Coach, I think, is by far a bit more memorable than even Bill from Left 4 Dead 1. I've seen so many animations of Coach, and he's amazing. I love Coach dearly. I don't talk. I've talked about my tattoos a ton. I don't have any more since I've last spoken about them, but an idea I did have for Coach or for a tattoo is I really wanted to get the Left 4 Dead 2 hand, like the 2 thing like that. Have Coach sit in the center like a like a swing set, and then have like a hunter like hanging off a finger or something like that. Just because I do love this game dearly, and there's a little bit of bias in here. I know some people may not hold it super fondly, but even people I've talked to that don't play video games a ton but have played Left 4 Dead do love Left 4 Dead. I think. Um, like I said, Left 4 Dead 2 doesn't add anything else except weapons, by the way. Completely forgot to. I skipped over weapons for both games. Number one didn't have that many. Unfortunately, oddly enough, I think Valve has a pretty extensive list of weapons under its belt because of its few games of Counter Strike and all that. But they didn't really want to put that many, I think, into this game. They put a few shotguns, a few assault rifles, a few submachine guns, and then like a couple snipers. And that's it. That's really it. It's like maybe a total of 10 guns in the first game. They do add quite a few things into the second game. I would argue about like probably 15 more weapons, 10 or so more weapons, including melee weapons into the game in the second one. I think they actually had them in the first one too. Yeah, they did have them in the first one because you had the fire axe, frying pan, and everything like that. Um, but the second one, that's the main thing it added was a few more weapons, more axe, the new survivors, um, and then they probably improved a little bit on the gameplay. Which, by the way, the actual gameplay itself, the movement and feeling of everything is stupendous. Those old Valve games just know how to feel like the smoothest things on the planet. And Left 4 Dead 2 is perfect for experiencing that absolute smooth gameplay, that shooting, the movements, just like there's no trying to be realism. Like there's no realism to the movement system back then for a lot of games. So the fact that you're just like wee, like ice skating almost in a way, just like around the like place. The aiming is like perfect, like accuracy. Shooting feels nice. Everything about it just feels like incredible. Any of those Valve games. I'll talk about probably a few more of the Valve games. Um, I didn't play much of Counter Strike, but I did play a lot of Portal, so I'll talk about Portal probably within like a week or so. But I wholeheartedly recommend Left 4 Dead 2 for any zombie fan, for any shooter fan. If you have friends and you just want a game that's like perfect for just messing around in it and just spending some time with your friends, it's perfect for that as well. Now, granted, you can ramp up the difficulty and have a lot of time playing the same map over and over again. But with friends, it's still a wonderful. By the way, a little mechanic I forgot to speak about is they do have a system for disciplining players who either run too fast or lag behind too slow behind their other players. Which is like it will target you. It will actively send things your way and say, this person is either not cooperating with his friends by sticking with them too much or is just leaving them behind. Just go for that guy specifically. It's so smart. I think it's cool. It makes sense a lot. But otherwise for that game, 10 out of 10. It's by far one of my most favorite games of all time. I know I don't talk about it quite as much as Command and Conquer or Dead Space or anything like that, but it does hold a very special place in my heart. I will give you the hours I played in it because it's one of those games I have actually played a fair bit, and I will tell you about it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I put it in the record thing for me. It's up here. Left 4 Dead 2. Also, it's a game I'm refusing to uninstall. I refuse to. Currently, Left 4 Dead 2 has a total of 95 hours. Now, that might not sound like a lot. I think I have regular Left 4 Dead 1 on here. Let me check that real quick just to make sure. I do. Yes, that's what I figured. So this account has no Left 4 Dead 1 stuff, but it does have 95 hours of Left 4 Dead 2. That's mainly with friends. And so I will tell you that on an old account, I probably had hundreds of hours roughly on Left 4 Dead 2. An absolute ton. So, uh, ever want a game like that, just go through. It's always cheap because it's been out for so long. Recommend it to your friends. Um, Something to play for probably years to come. I would recommend too. But that'll be it for this one. As always, I like to ask you to like and comment. Would you, if you have played Left 4 Dead 2, is it hold a place in your heart, like it does for me, or is it more so uh something you just played a long time ago and enjoyed it then, and you're like, I don't really play it anymore, or is it just like a game you haven't played, or if it's a game you dislike, just tell me about why you dislike it. I'm fully willing to take in any kind of things and see if I can like either change your mind a little bit, or if I can't change your mind, I will respect your opinion on it. So as always, as well, I like to ask you to subscribe. If you do, I think you're wonderful. If you don't, I still think you're wonderful. So it's completely up to you. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.